Welcome to day 6 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge. I hope you'll sew along with me and enter your name in the drawing by leaving in the comments what quilt you're working on today and how much you got done in your 15 minutes. Today I'm working on my Life of Plenty quilt. It is a block of the month by Sherry Payne. And eventually somebody suggested the name Life of Plenty for this quilt, and I really like that name. And one of the people who are participating in this block of the month put the name of the quilt on the quilt itself as a header. And I really like that idea because it reminds me to be grateful without being demanding that I should be grateful. So I'm thinking about just adding that to the top of this quilt, and eventually if I do that I'll probably need to add borders on the side, but I'll think about that later on what I'm going to do with the side borders. So today I guess I just need to get started on the applique for the top border. All of the applique on this is hand stitch, it's needle turn, and so I'll be doing a needle turn applique also for the title. It's going to be hard for me to find a pattern with the right size of the letters for a title like this, and so I'm just going to go on my computer and see if I can find a way to create my own template for the letters. So come join me at the computer. Welcome. I'm here at my computer. I have a Word document open, and I'm going to type in the name of the title of the quilt, A Life of Plenty. And I'm going to make this as big as, I'm going to choose a font that's as big as I can get it. I can probably make this landscape. Orientation, so it comes out to be nice and big. Choose a font that's pretty big. I tried some already here. I have this Masses, which I kind of like. It's pretty plain though. I thought I'd like something a little bit extra. Tried the elephant. The elephant one has really tiny lines sometimes, and I think that'll be hard to needle turn applique. This one, I like this one too, but it also has tiny lines. That will be hard to needle turn. I really like this one. I just, the P is kind of, doesn't look like a capital P. I guess I could try to fix that on my own, but I think maybe cursive will also be hard to applique because all the letters will go together. I like the Cooper Black. That one looks pretty good. This one has really thin lines. That'll make it hard to applique. I like this one. It's pretty plain. I think for a quilt I want it to be just a little bit, it has a little bit more. Show card Gothic is pretty good too. I was worried about the little circles on the inside just because they're so small that, like inside the O and inside the P, that it might be difficult to applique. And the Masses is nice, and I think it's a little bit too thin for my purpose for needle turn applique. And Jumble, I think, is the one that I decided to use because I think it's pretty, it's a pretty font, and the thickness of the letters kind of make it look more like plentiful. And so this is the font that I'm choosing for this quilt. And what I'm going to do here is choose this zoom function, try to get it to be as big as I can get it to be. 500. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. I'm measuring it, and it does look like the letters are 4 inches long, which is about how big I wanted them to be. And so now what I'm going to do is to trace them onto some paper. So I had three options on what I can trace them on. I can trace them on regular computer paper, which will work fine for most of my purposes. If I use regular paper, then I can just put this on the back side of the fabric and cut it out, and that way it'll be reversed, because I don't really know how to reverse the letters on Word using Word. The other thing I could do is to put them on freezer paper, which I think is what I'm going to do if I can find my freezer paper, because that'll keep I can iron that onto the back of the fabric, and that'll keep the fabric secure. I can cut around the applique with 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the third option that I have is to trace it on fusible paper. That's usually what I do, but because this quilt is needle turn, that's not going to be an option for me today. So I'm going to stop this recording, set up the camera so you can watch me trace letters. Before we start, I just want to tell you that I'm not recommending that you follow this procedure. If you do have any problems with your monitor, I don't take any responsibility for that. This is just something that I am doing. I couldn't find my freezer paper, and I didn't want to waste a lot of time doing that. First, I'm going to go ahead and use the computer paper for this. And my microphone didn't work, so I'm voicing over what I said during this video. There are other options to doing this. I could print this out and then trace it, or I could find another pattern that has letters and enlarge it or reduce it on my printer. I am using a washable marker. I have to press very hard to get the letter onto the paper, and if I do draw outside of the paper, then it'll be easy to clean up from the monitor. And I always make sure that I'm holding on to the monitor to make sure that I'm not adding too much pressure on it. It's just a matter of lightly tracing over the letters. It does not have to be perfectly traced, because I will be adding a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this. I don't know what fabric I'm going to use yet. I think I'm going to be using the same fabric for all of the letters. And then once I trace the letters, I make sure that I have some registration marks so that I know basically the approximate distance that the letters will be. And but for now, I'm just going to trace them the way that they are on the paper, on the computer right now. I'm going to trace them the way they are on the monitor right now. One of the biggest things to keep in mind when you're preparing the pattern for an applique is to make sure that you have the pattern reversed, especially if you're working on the other side, because it's very easy to have your patterns backwards when you're working on applique. So I'll either put this paper on the top of the fabric when I'm cutting out the fabric. When I'm cutting out the fabric, I'll either put these letters on the top, or if I am going to use a freezer paper, I'll make sure that I use a reverse of the pattern so that the letters will be correct on the quilt itself. I always test that out several times to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, because it is very easy to have it wrong. But sometimes it's kind of fun if you do have it wrong, especially if you had just like one letter or two that you deliberately make backwards. It just adds a cute, whimsical look. Instead of appliquing the letters, I could also embroider some letters on there or do some pieced lettering, but I really like the idea of the applique because I think that fits better with the mood of the quilt. I'm having a hard time scrolling on this monitor because I don't have my mouse pad with me, and also because usually my monitor is on the other side of the computer. This is a different setup for me. I moved the computers into the sewing room so that I could, because that's where the camera is. This video is one of a series of videos for the 15 Minutes to Quilt Challenge. I am showing you each of my projects that I'm working on. I'm working on a different project every day. I'm having fun pulling out a different project every single day to show you how much progress I can make in 15 minutes. I hope that you sew along with me, and remember to let me know what you're working on and how much progress that you're making. I will be drawing the winner on January 1st from all of the entries that I get every day this month. I really like reading all the comments of all of the projects I've been working on so far, and it's really exciting to see all of the enthusiasm, see all of the support that everybody's giving each other during this challenge. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you again tomorrow.